I am a tobacco cessation specialist, and we work with Quitwell Newham. And this training is being delivered in, as Jacqueline said, in partnership with CGL, Queen Mary University, as well as the council. And Sumaya Rahman is also the public health strategist who helped us develop the training. She's not with us today, but we will be delivering the training on behalf. I think I think I'm happy to start, Jacqueline. Is that the same? Perfect.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yes. So the objective of today's training essentially is that it's a 2-hour workshop. Sorry, it's a 1.5 hour workshop that is separated into 2 parts. The first part of the training would take you through that will broaden your knowledge and understanding around the risks of vaping for young people. It'll also give you more information on what a vape is and misinformation, as well as more information regarding that product and what's available inside it. The second part of the training would be more of what kind of support is available in the borough and what can we as frontline workers or parents or teachers do in order to support a young person who may be vaping. So that's the objectives for today's training. Moving on. So we are going to try and play this video. It is a bit of a product that was, so it's a bit of a work that was, it was produced in coordination with Smoke-Free Sheffield as well as Ash, and it's a bit of a co-production work. Let me see if we can succeed.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, perfect.
Perfect.
So now moving on to the next slide. The key messages on vaping is that essentially vaping is for adult smokers, and it's for them to help quit smoking. For a healthy body and mind, vaping is not recommended for non-smokers or people under the age of 18, including if it is to give up tobacco. One of the more commonly known fact I would say is that people are aware of the fact that vapes are less harmful than smoking, but what they are not aware of is that it's not exactly risk-free. So it's a lesser evil, I would say. And essentially that it is illegal to sell vape products to anyone who is under the age of 18, or for adults to buy them on, for children who are, or young adults who are under the age of 18. Um, so essentially, the chief medical officer, Professor Chris Whitty, he does say that if you smoke, vaping or e-cigarettes is much safer, but if you don't vape. And I think this is the key message that we need to keep highlighting every time we come in contact with a young person as well, is to make them aware that it's a lesser evil, but it does come with its own risks. Now moving on to the next slide. So this slide is essentially giving you more information on what electronic cigarettes are. So a vape or an electronic cigarette, it is a device that heats up a liquid to create vapor that you breathe in. Some vaping devices include vape pens, electronic cigarettes, or even a hookah, or for example, more commonly used nowadays could be the device known as IQOS. It's like a heated tobacco device, but it also has an electronic component to it. So vapes can be purchased from specialist vape shops, pharmacies, retailers, or even from online platforms. Some vapes which are available on the market are currently unregulated and they do not meet the safety guidelines of the Medicines Health Regulatory Board. So the device that you can see on the slide on the screen right now, towards your right side, is the electronic vape that we have available at the service, that is Quitwell Newham. This is the device. This used to, there's a more updated version of the device, but then this is essentially the Wyco, the brand. This is the device that we provide as a stop smoking aid, because with this device you can, I will touch on the details towards later on in the training as well, but then this allows you to essentially taper the dose of nicotine you're consuming. what the regulation basically is, that the MHRA regulation is that nicotine vaping products should be, they should we should make sure that they're safe to use and they protect children from using these products. Essentially, it is that the restricting the tank size to more than 2 ml. So as you see, there's like a clear container on the electronic device on the vape that's displayed. So that container has to be no more than 2 ml, or it can store no more than 2 ml of liquid at a particular time, and that's what makes it a regulated vape device. In on the high street, if you do see vapes, there would be vapes that contain 6,000 puffs to 5,000 puffs, or even sometimes 12,000, and those are not ones that are regulated, so we don't know what's inside them essentially. Um, Now, just so that you can spot the difference, on towards your left, you can see the device um, um, that's supplied by Quitwell Newham, and the other side, I'm going to bring in Jacqueline to give you more information on.
So just to piggyback off of Amina, essentially regulated versus unregulated is a really big thing that we bring up to all of the young people that we interact with, or I guess essentially any vape user. Regulated vapes, just like Amina said, are a lot safer, or have been tested to be a lot safer than smoking traditional cigarettes if you previously were a cigarette smoker. However, what a lot of we're coming across is that young people, because they are not of legal age to purchase a regulated vape, they are purchasing or being manipulated into buying unregulated vapes, as you can see on the right hand side. It's colorful packaging, flashy flavors like sweeties that most of us know, like Sour Patch Kids, even that Willy Wonka advertising, hats, runts, all of that stuff. Marketing is very clever and is targeting lots of our young users to engage with this product and misrepresent the level of risk that comes with engaging with nicotine products, such as unregulated vapes, as well as regulated vapes, because I would like to stress children who start vaping before age 25, which is generally when your brain finishes developing, are a lot more at risk to kind of creating that dopamine reward pathway and disrupting that, which will most likely lead to them wanting to engage with more products and substances, even outside of just nicotine. Moving on into kind of some pyramid statistics. So, what would we like you to know about vaping? So, nationally, the rates of vaping amongst 11 to 17-year-olds have continued to stabilize following the period that's increased since COVID. We noticed a huge spike in young people wanting to smoke various devices, whether that be THC, cannabis, and especially nicotine products like vapes. So, around 980,000 children ages 11 to 17-year-old in the UK have experimented with vapes or at least tried it once or twice. That is a crazy exponential number of young people who are not of legal age to even be consuming nicotine tobacco type products, to put that into perspective. And so disposable vapes are the most widely used products amongst young vapors, and actually will be banned starting June 1st of this year, so 2025. However, most commonly sourced supply of underage vapors are at shops. So that's a big topic of conversation within youth workers. And what we're researching and really trying to get a hold of is that trading standard, because there's a lot of shops, off license shops, high street shops that very willingly are handing out vape devices to people without that photo ID or a way to verify their age, as well as social media and online exposures and online platforms that these young vapors are also being able to access vapes a lot more easily. And so exposure to vape promotion remains very high. You can see at a 72%, if not, I could argue probably higher, with the main source being given a vape. So 54%, followed by shops at 48%. So as you can see, not only in person is it a lot easier for young people to access these devices, but also that online culture, social media, trends like vape challenges, glamorization, misinformation about how harmful it is for young users. All of that goes into this big topic of young people vaping and the rise in it. And so, as we move over to this beautiful pyramid structure, so at the bottom, you see 9.5% of young people are experimenting with vapes. And then moving up, um, 7.2% of young people are regularly admitting that they're using vapes. And then all the way at the top is young people using vapes as a way to, what maladapted or modified means is using vapes and various vaping devices, whether that be unregulated or THC vapes, which is vapes with cannabis oil in the e-liquid. So these are the vapors that we really would like to intervene and work with because they're using vaping as a coping mechanism for underlying stressors as well as mental health struggles that they're experiencing in their daily lives. Amina, would you like to add anything to that? Oh, Amina, you are muted.
My bad. I'm so sorry. I was just gonna say that we can see that, the people who are actually using or trying to modify the substances are quite smaller as compared to the people who are experimenting or who are just curious about the vape. And that gives us kind of an idea of, the reason of why younger people might be vaping, that they're curious. I think that's about it. Are you happy for me to move on?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So yeah.
So what do we know about vaping in the Newham borough? So our precious borough that we are based in. So Change, Grow, Live, Newham Rise. We are a free, confidential drug and alcohol service. So just overall substance service for young people between the ages of actually 5 to 25, because we do have a hidden harm sec. However, the ages 11 to 25 are typically what we're seeing for young people already being exposed and experimenting with substances on their own. So from January to December of 2024, 223 young people were referred into our services for just vaping. So young people were asked about their vaping habits, and what we gathered is 26% said yes to mainly just vaping nicotine products. So those disposable vapes that you see in fun, flashy colors all over the place. I know we've all seen them. 18% said yes to vaping THC. And what I really like to harp on is THC is the psychoactive component of cannabis. And so, what makes THC vaping really attractive to a lot of young users, just like disposable vapes, THC e liquid has minimal smell, it's really discreet. Those THC vapes are similar sizes, if not smaller and skinnier in some ways, to disposable vapes. So it's very attractive, a very discreet way to engage with substances without anyone's knowledge. And so, which is one of the reasons why we want to bring it to everyone's attention. So 6% said yes to using maladaptive vapes, which we bring back to. Those are people tampering with the vapes. So maybe putting other harmful substances or toxic chemicals inside vapes, as well as using these vapes for coping mechanisms or just various stressors that are going on in their lives, as well as already having a nicotine or THC dependency. And so the majority of our young people referred into vaping for vaping reasons were around ages 11 to 14, but there are referrals of children as young as 9 years old. It is so normalized in our culture, especially in our young people's culture, to just engage with vaping vaping videos and vaping glamorization. And so it's just something we like to really bring to awareness of the professionals working with these young people, because it's what they know and it's the digital diet essentially that they're engaging with on a day-to-day basis. So it's really important for us to be up to date with what they're seeing on on their screens. Feel free to move on, Amina.
Thank you. Okay. So now, moving on to a few of the reasons we might have already covered in the previous slide. So why do some young people vape? There can be a number of reasons, as we all may know, but essentially, from the data as well, we can see that curiosity is one of the biggest reasons. Then vaping is a new experience, and young people want to experiment to see what it is like. Secondly, it would be peer pressure. That is, if they see friends or family members use an electronic cigarette, young people may begin to try themselves as well. The availability of appealing flavors, and as Jacqueline said, it's marketed so that young people are attracted towards it more. And then they have flavors such as mint, candy fruit, kiwi, passion fruit, and things that are enticing. And also, as I said earlier, there's this perceived safety. It is being marketed as something is less harmful than cigarettes, but again, that's why we need to have consistent messaging that it is less harmful for adult smokers who want to quit smoking and not for young people. And again, the high nicotine content. So vapes contain more nicotine than before, which can lead to addiction. For children, especially with neurodivergent conditions as well, they can become increasingly dependent on nicotine, which will then increase, or it will then cause a dependent cycle, and they would then will undergo withdrawal symptoms as well. When trying to quit, as adults would when they do try to quit tobacco or nicotine. So these are a few of the reasons why some young people might vape. Jacqueline, is there anything you wanted to add here?
Nope, you covered it all.
Thank you. Okay. So now, any questions, anyone from the audience?
Feel free to enter it in the chat. I'm pretty sure there is a chat room, especially if you are not wanting to unmute yourself. That's totally fine. But if there are no questions, if you guys could go to the bottom and kind of send a reaction and give a thumbs up, kind of like that you're ready to move on.
Yep, everyone's ready to move on.
Wonderful. Thank you for those reactions. Whoa, I just did a lot of thumbs up. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving
Okay.
along.
Okay. Now, just a second. Yes, okay. So now moving on to, so we've given you like an overview of what a vape is and the prevalence of vaping in the borough. This section deals with what's inside a vape, and what are the different types of vaping that are there. So what substances can be found inside a vape? There are two types. One would be nicotine vaping, and the other would be vaping with harmful substances. Example, as Jacqueline said earlier, there would be THC, synthetic cannabinoids, otherwise known as spice.
And I'd like to mention that with the nicotine products and the unregulated ones, especially, well, actually only the unregulated ones, constantly we are finding heavy metals such as lead that is extraordinarily toxic in any amount in the body, nickel, various things like formaldehyde even, and other preservation chemicals for body and food products and food flavorings and this stuff, even though someone's argument might be, well, I can ingest it because it's the butter flavoring that I taste in my popcorn. Ingesting is very different than something being lit up by an electronic coil and heated up and inhaled through the lungs. And so that's something we always like to tell our young people, and they know what should be going in your lungs. And typically they all know just oxygen.
Thank you. So I'm going to move on to the next slide now. Okay. So nicotine vaping is a good quit aid for adult smokers. This slide essentially talks about why we would choose or why we are promoting vaping as a quit aid. So it is unfortunately, smoking is one of the biggest causes of preventable illness and premature death. Over a million people in the UK have died from smoking since 2010, and there are different forms of smoking or using tobacco that can lead to these increased numbers. It could be smoking pipes, shisha, as well as chewed tobacco. Um, when we do picture all of this, vapes are less harmful than smoking for adults, and the reasons are that they do not contain or burn any tobacco, so users are exposed to fewer toxins and as well as at lower levels, reducing the risk of cancer, lung disease, heart attack, and stroke. In cigarettes, so Cancer Research UK did a research, and they found that there were close to 6,000 chemicals present in tobacco. So that is significantly lesser in vapes. As well as because we're not burning any tobacco, there's no carbon monoxide produced, and vapors do not, ingest any carbon monoxide, and instead they have more oxygen going into their body, or inhaling, sorry. Vaping allows smokers to follow a similar hand-to-mouth movement as well, whilst reducing their exposure to harmful chemicals, as said earlier. So that hand-to-mouth movement is a very important part of the smoking ritual, among people who use tobacco. So electronic liquids used in vapes, they contain varying amount of nicotine strengths, and one of the most beneficial um, things about using an electronic cigarette as a quit aid is that smokers would be able to tailor their nicotine intake to manage cravings and withdrawal symptoms. And smokers are, twice as more likely to quit smoking compared to when using an electronic cigarette when compared to quit aids. But one thing we must keep in mind is that vaping is not risk-free, and it should be a stepping stone to quitting altogether. Jacqueline, is there anything else you would like to add here?
That's fabulous.
Um, so again, why? So the continuing on to why nicotine vaping is not recommended for young people under the age of 18. So nicotine vaping can create a buzz or a rush, and it is because of this buzz or rush that young people might be, more inclined towards vaping. But this is caused due to like a result in a lack of oxygen to the brain, and this can be quite dangerous for young people who have not been exposed to such high levels of nicotine before. For children and young people, nicotine can have negative effects on brain development. So it could lead to problems with attention span, learning, and it could also cause like an increase in addiction. It changes their reward pathway, so the way their dopamine, or the way they experience those hormones also changes. And other side effects include lightheadedness. They can have increased heart rate, alertness, or nausea as well. They might feel anxious at times. And also one of the disadvantages, I would say, the main thing with vaping is that we don't know the long-term side effects because there's not enough research to give us that information. And the other thing is that illegal vapes do not contain correct labels. They may contain higher levels of nicotine or other unknown substances, as Jacqueline mentioned earlier. So those are a few reasons why it's not recommended for vaping. And I think as we go along the training, there would be points where we would be linking um, the issues with vaping to why they cannot, why they're not recommended for younger people as well. And you'd be able to see the complete cycle, hopefully. Now moving on to the next slide. Yes,
Yeah. So,
please.
how does nicotine vaping create a buzz or a rush feeling for a young person? So, nicotine is a substance and it's a stimulant. So, of course, just like caffeine, someone might have a caffeine buzz. Nicotine is kind of similar to that. I like to use that comparison. However, what we're really looking at here and what this kind of scale is showing us is what is the pH scale? So, nicotine comes in different types. So, as you can see, free base nicotine, cigarettes, a lot of people have to build up a certain amount of endurance, I'll call it, to be able to smoke a large sum of cigarettes in a day. However, what's concerning for young users who have never used nicotine before or any smokable product, because nicotine salts are the vapor or what's inside that e-liquid, that vaporized liquid, young people are able to consume high levels of nicotine in within any amount of time. Of course, they might feel maybe a sense of nausea or lightheadedness. However, they're not going to feel that burning sensation in their lungs, which isn't going to deter them the way that smoking a whole pack of cigarettes as a first time user might deter them away, because they'll have that burn of the lungs or even more nausea and sick like feelings. So that's why for young vapors and first time vapors or first time smokers in any way, using nicotine salts is a lot more pleasurable to inhale. And then, as you can tell, it's just a repetitive cycle of really building up that tolerance, especially to the nicotine buzz. And then for a lot of vapors that I work with that have a pretty significant dependency at this point, they just tell me, oh, I'm just using it because I'm having those withdrawal symptoms. They're not even feeling that lightheaded buzz or rush anymore, which is kind of that euphoric feeling that a lot of people chase when they first start using any substance, but especially with nicotine vapes. Amina, would you like to add anything to that?
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. So this is a bit of a knowledge check. This is a bit of an exercise. As Jacqueline said earlier, please feel free to respond in the comments as well, the chat as well. We have, so essentially on the screen, what you can see are examples of a device called Elf Bar. This is apparently one of the most popular electronic cigarettes in the UK as well. And you might have come across these. And essentially, just to see if anyone knows, any information about electronic cigarettes. So let's start with like the first question, if that's okay with everyone. Yeah.
People are shy, Amina. You can just say the answers.
Okay. So how many puffs do we have? How many puffs do you think there are in each of these electronic cigarettes? So in one bar, how many puffs do we think there are? Any comments, any takers? I shall wait for a bit more. So we
We
do
have
have a response.
someone said hundreds. Thank you,
Hundreds.
Michelle, for participating. Always
Yes,
appreciated.
you are right. So hundreds. 600 puffs in one bar. That's actually, for something that's quite small, 600 is a big number, I would say. So there are 600 puffs in each. And how many cigarettes do you think that's equivalent to, like one bar? Would it be cheating, Jacqueline, if you give the answer?
Probably. I'll say uh, uh, 20. I don't want to give the answer, but I can. I can be a participant.
Yeah. Any takers? Any guesses?
Oh, I thought I gave it away.
Yeah, no, not yet.
Oh, Michelle says 30. Thank you again, Michelle.
30. Very close.
1 cigarette. Thank you, Neve. Neve.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nivi. Okay. So we have another response.
25 we have.
25. Very close, very close. Okay, so I'm going to give the answer
28.
away now, yeah? Surprisingly, it's close to, oh, yes, it's close to 48 to 50 cigarettes in one bar. That's, yeah, again, that's also surprising. Um,
Is
Very
it 20
close
in a
though.
pack of cigarettes?
Yes, I think
Yes.
yes. 20.
So roughly that's 2.5 packs or so.
Mm,
Yeah, to put into perspective. And
exactly.
some young people are using one of those in less than a 48-hour period. So just to put it in perspective.
Yep, which is very worrying.
Yes.
So, the next question is, how much nicotine do you think is there in one bar? So, to give an idea, one cigarette has about 1 milligram of nicotine, or about, it depends. So, anywhere from zero point 0.5 to 1.5 milligrams of nicotine in a cigarette. Um, any ideas?
We have
It's
a
more popularly, I'm sorry?
Oh, no, carry on.
No, I was just going to say more popularly, it's mentioned, percentages are used, so people would probably be like this much percentage of nicotine is there in one
We have a
electronic
guess
cigarette.
in the chat, 40 milligrams,
40 milligrams, very, that's good. Okay.
50 milligrams as well.
Okay.
More
So we
regular.
have, so the answer is the big reveal. It's actually 20 milligrams of nicotine.
Glad it's not 50.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad it's not 50. Okay, so now this is not a trick question, but more like a wake up. So this kind of adds, it adds all the other questions together and it gives us an idea of why this is dangerous. So the LD50 is essentially um, the limit or the amount of dosage that could potentially be fatal. And this is decided by the WHO. And so what do you think? What would you say, or would you be able to guess the LD50 of nicotine? So how much amount of nicotine per day could cause fatal side effects or adverse effects that could potentially be fatal? Any guesses?
More than 500 to 600 milligrams. Thank you for your guess.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to reveal the answer because this is quite shocking. Um, so about 30 to 60 milligrams of nicotine can potentially be fatal. So if anyone uses probably 3 of these in a day, they could potentially have, um, fatal side effects or adverse effects that could potentially be fatal. And that's why we need to be very careful, or it needs to be highly regulated, and we need to make sure that our young people are aware of this information, so that they can then take informed choices. So any comments on this or any questions? Okay, so let's move ahead then, if that's okay. Do you want to add anything here, Jacqueline?
No, you can go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. So now moving on to why can it be difficult for young people to quit vaping. Number one, as we know, nicotine is highly addictive. It creates it creates a dependency cycle where every time the levels of nicotine in your body are low, you would then again have cravings and or withdrawal symptoms that would prompt you or tempt you into consuming more nicotine. And unfortunately, that's why even smoking is very difficult. Why does it it affect young people so much is because their developing brains are becoming more and more sensitive to the effects of nicotine. And the longer that they use nicotine for, the more harder it is to, remove themselves from the dependent cycle. And young people can also think of vaping as a coping mechanism to deal with stress and anxiety. The truth is that nicotine addiction actually has the opposite effect because it's not steady. So there's like an up and down of emotions that you're, or sensations that your body is undergoing. So it actually has the opposite effect of calming you down. Again, as I said earlier, because we are not aware of the long-term risks of nicotine vaping, because of the lack of research, and so therefore we need to remember that even though it is less harmful than smoking, there are risks that are attached to vaping. And then lastly, the availability and option of vapes on sale for young people under the age of 18. They might not be regulated, or they might not meet safety standards because it's illegal to sell, right? So the ones that they are getting their hands on probably are not regulated. And it can make it incredibly difficult to quit vaping because then again, we do not know what's there in the vapes. I think that's a comprehensive um, view on why young people might find might find it difficult to quit vaping. Jacqueline, is there anything else that you would want to add over here?
No, I think that
Okay,
covered it all. Thank
okay,
you.
no problem. So, any questions, ladies and gentlemen? And any questions or anything you would want to discuss so far of everything that we have spoken about? I'm sorry if there was like a lot of information being thrown on you, thrown at you. Um,
Hi, can I just ask a quick question, please?
yes, please.
I'm with the information you've given. I don't understand. So why they're being utilized? How are they not worse than cigarettes? I guess that's what I'm struggling to see. When you can take so much nicotine in, sort of without realizing it. Yeah, I'm just confused as to how they're being used that way, I guess.
That's a fabulous question. Amina, would you like to kick it off or do you want me to start?
Do you want to start, Jacqueline?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for chiming in. That's a great question. I think that's why we keep on using the terms regulated versus unregulated. We can't emphasize that enough, especially with the young people that we're working with. So, just like Amina said before, vaping, whether regulated or unregulated, is not risk-free. However, the reason why we say it's much safer than cigarettes, when used in the prescribed practice from like a clinic like Quitwell Newham, or when using a regulated, highly regulated vape that can only be 600 puffs or less, can only have a 2 milliliter tank or less if disposable, and only have 20 milligrams of nicotine or less. What that means is that it's cleaner, it's only nicotine, it's only vegetable glycerin, I want to say, as well as just like water and maybe a little bit of flavorings. However, so that's a lot safer than something with over, did you say 6,600 plus chemicals found in cigarettes? Yeah,
6,000.
6,000, excuse me. So 000. So 6,000 chemicals are found in the traditional cigarettes in comparison to a very highly regulated smoking cessation device, just like a regulated vape. So that's what we're saying, why we're saying it's a safer way to ingest or smoke nicotine. However, unregulated vapes are just as, if not even more so in some ways, risky and unhealthy and toxic as traditional cigarettes, if that answers your question. So there's a significant difference between regulated versus unregulated.
Yeah. Additionally, just to add on, so as I said earlier, electronic cigarettes do not produce any tar, or they not produce any carbon monoxide. So one of the reasons why smoking is related to health conditions such as stroke or hypertension is because our body does not get the chance to heal, or we are not letting oxygen reach all parts of our body, because carbon monoxide, it has this action of kind of fighting with oxygen and not allowing it to reach all parts of our body. And with an electronic cigarette, that whole component is taken away. So that risk of ingesting or not ingesting oxygen is taken away. It's 95% less riskier for an adult smoker who has been consuming tobacco to use an electronic cigarette, because they will not be, again, inhaling the tar as well as the carbon monoxide. So that kind of addresses two of the major concerns that were brought on with smoking tobacco or chewing tobacco or in any form of tobacco at the end of the day. Yes, and I hope that answers your question.
Thank you for asking that clarifying question, Michelle.
Can I
I
ask
can
a
see
question,
this.
please?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
What kind of health issues are we seeing with young people from smoking these vapes?
That's also a brilliant question, and I think we will be touching on that in the coming slides. Would it be okay if we address that in
Yeah,
the
that's
following
fine.
slides? Yeah, perfect. I can see on the chat that there are also questions. Jacqueline, I'm really sorry I cannot access the chat because I'm sharing the presentation, but would you please mind?
I only see the feedback form that
Okay.
Paulette, so I think we're in the clear.
Perfect.
So if that's the end of our question section, obviously you're more than welcome to hang around at the end to ask questions, but with being mindful of time, let's move right ahead.
Yep, perfect. So I think
Yes.
this is you.
So going into vaping harmful substances. So THC, like I mentioned before, is the psychoactive component found in cannabis. So I always butcher this, tetrahydrocannabinol. So essentially that's what THC is the main psychoactive chemical in cannabis. So creates the high, more mental effects. Weed, marijuana, you might hear that term. That's actually the highest, most common used illicit drug by all young people in the UK is cannabis. So that's why we're seeing even more of a significant rise in interest in THC vapes. The use and possession of cannabis for recreational purposes is completely illegal, whatever age you are. However, a lot of people have the misconception that it's legal for people 18 and up. However, if you are 18 years or older and are prescribed by your GP a medical grade cannabis prescription, then in that circumstance, it would be legal. But that's something I really cannot harp enough with our young people, because I would hate for them to develop a criminal record because they assumed that cannabis in small doses, in small amounts on their body, walking around, was legal for them. So THC can be extracted from the cannabis plant and is used in a form of an oil that can be added to vaping liquid. Like we keep on referring to it as e-liquid. THC oil can just be added into any e-liquid. As you can see on the side, it's more of an amber hue than a clear regular old nicotine disposable vape, which has that clear liquid. So most likely than not, if they're smoking a THC product, it will have that amber brown type hue liquid inside the clear section of the vape device. So why is THC becoming so popular amongst children and young people? Currently trending. All drugs and alcohol kind of go through within cycles, kind of like how fashion cycles in and out of fashion. So THC is more popular than even alcohol is in our young people at the moment. So it's currently trending, Brands like to target our young people with clever packaging. Like we mentioned before, it's engaging. They're noticing the people that they see online using it. So it's creating that natural misconception that this must be safer than other drugs. Also, THC, when vaporized, has little to no smell. So the same with vaporized nicotine products. It's easy, it's discreet usage that's very enticing for people who are not legally consuming vaporized products. Easily accessible and affordable. So not only in-person shops and suppliers, but also online. There's so many websites and social media platforms that even have little QR codes that you can scan and go to a shopping list per se, where you can click and select the product that you'd like and ship it straight to your house. Part of my role is staying within the current trends. So not only when I'm talking to these young people and they're telling me where they might get their products and who they might see their products being get their products from, and or who they might get their products from. That's what I'm trying to say. Excuse me, word stumble. But also these young people are just have it broadcasted to them in every facet of their life. And so that's something that I like to make adults who are safeguarding individuals aware of when talking and hopefully starting these open-minded conversations about substance use. Amina, would you like to add anything? Alrighty. So on the screen, we just say spot the difference. So I would like to disclaim that none of these are regulated vape devices. So on the left-hand side, that's more of a disposable, typical nicotine vape that you might see. And then on the right-hand side, just like I said, always look for that amber liquid or brownish gooey liquid. That is kind of what a THC vape typically would look like, that you might see young people using. So what are the dangers of vaping THC? So THC can be extremely dangerous and cause serious mental health issues that last long term. I actually even today had a young person talk to me that they had stopped smoking any THC products for the past couple of months, and they were still experiencing certain elements of paranoia and anxiety. And I just really like our young users or potential users to know this, that this is what they're making themselves susceptible to, those long-term risks and mental health problems that they might experience even after completely remaining abstinent from any THC product, whether that be traditional bud cannabis or THC vapes. It is very harmful to the lungs as well as the mind, like we just said. So you might experience a loss of coordination or disoriented senses of sound, sight, touch, increased anxiety, paranoia, and even hallucinations. So because as you can tell, I have an accent that is not from the UK originally. So because all different parts of the world might have legalized THC products on the market, a lot of young people in the UK are seeing that as, oh, THC must be safer within our country. However, because it is not legalized unless you have a medical prescription, all of the product on the market that people are accessing to use recreationally and illicitly is completely unregulated. So the potency, the volume, the type of THC that you're consuming varies from batch to batch, from supplier to supplier. So that's something I really like young people to know and be aware of, that because it's so underregulated, you are making yourself susceptible to dangerous substances like synthetic cannabinoids, in other words, spice. So very harmful chemicals and substances, as well as high-grade cannabis that can trigger predisposition to genetic conditions like anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, mood swings, and so on and so forth. I skipped forward to that last little bullet point. I got ahead of myself. As you can see, I'm passionate about this topic. So look out for any of these signs if your young person is vaping, as well as letting them know that if they're experiencing something that is really causing them significant distress, it's okay for them as well to call 999, or if they're with someone who is sober, to drive them to A&E. All righty. Thank you, Amina. I think this is me as well. So how can THC vaping lead to use of other harmful substances such as spice, like I mentioned in the previous slide? So the product and distribution of THC has fallen in recent years. So because of that, dealers are always one step ahead. So with any lack of availability of any substance, manufacturers become very clever and start producing synthetic forms. And synthetic is human made. So unfortunately, that means it's probably cut and laced and manufactured with toxic chemicals, heavy metals, things that any user, whether or not you're seeking out a THC vape, would probably not want to be ingesting. And spice, I would like to mention, is even more psychoactive and potent than regular old cannabis or clean THC. And so because of that, it's a lot more addictive, a lot more unpredictable, especially because each manufacturer of synthetic cannabinoids, aka spice, varies. That just makes it that much more unpredictable and high risk to be consuming, especially as a young user who has no tolerance level whatsoever. And so due to the large number of THC vapes and liquids containing synthetic cannabinoids such as spice, which is meant to mimic the effects of cannabis, however, that's usually not the case. Spice is addictive and can have a range of negative health effects, including chest pains, heart palpitations, so increase in heart rate and anxiety, extreme paranoia, vomiting, and inability to move even, and left in an extreme vulnerable state, especially when you're not using in a safe environment or with people that you trust. Part 2. Look at you guys mulling ahead. So woohoo. So this is the final part of our vaping training workshop, if you will. And so these are the resources that you can reach out to, make referrals, signpost to, and just engage and connect with within the New Borough. So our objectives. So youth vaping workshop is separated into 2 parts. So this is part 2. So the objectives of part 2 is to identify and recognize the signs that young people might be vaping and signs that it might be worth interacting with that young person and intervening with their vaping frequency and usage and how it's affecting them mentally, physically, academically, socially. Number 2, begin the initial conversation. So those open-minded, non-judgmental environment to strike up conversations with young people, to just kind of be a curious learner, to understand their vaping habits and why they might have originally started vaping and continuing their vape usage. And then lastly, to be able to signpost a young person to additional support resources and hubs such as CGL, especially if it's outside of the nicotine vaping realm, as well as Quit Well Newham, primarily if it's just a nicotine vape product or device. Yes. Oh, sorry. Amina, is this yours?
So essentially, so what are the signs of vaping?
Amina, you got a little quiet. Would you like to?
Sorry, is this better?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
So essentially, this slide discusses what the signs of vaping are and what you could probably look out for. There are many signs, but which are normal for teenage behavior, so it can get a bit challenging at times. Behavior such as, mood swings or change in habits, it can, it makes it difficult for parents or teachers or carers to be able to identify whether vaping is an issue. Some potential indicators to look out for would be unexplained sweet or fruity smells. Again, as you know, there are various flavors available. If you suddenly walk into a room and it smells of mango or strawberry, it is probably not a perfume. And if they're feeling incredibly, if you notice an increased thirst, or if there's an increase in in dry mouth, if there's persistent cough or respiratory issues, items around the house including chargers or really small pods, brightly colored disposable vapes, despite it being illegal from the 1st of June 2025, you might be able to find the unregulated vapes. Then suspicious behavior or conversations with friends with using vaping lingo such as cloud chasing, hit, rip, or draw. And also, I think, Jacqueline, you might be well placed to come in over here as well, with holding, when young people do hold vapes for their friends. You might have had more experience in your service as well regarding this. Was there something you wanted to add?
I mean, this is a pretty extensive list. But yeah, no, I guess one of the main things is basically what we're noticing, and when it becomes something of a red flag or amber flag is when young people start going to the bathroom quite frequently or self-isolating. So let's say they're at home, in school, wherever they may be. Specifically, let's just talk about a school environment, since this is the healthy school program. But so within schools, always looking at potentially they might be underneath their sweaters or their jumpers, hitting a vape. There's even vapes out there on the market that look like pens or pencils. Again, clearly targeted at young users who are not yet of legal consuming age. And then, with that being said, going to the bathroom quite frequently, or just kind of feeling socially isolated and withdrawn. Because when that kind of nicotine dependency starts kicking in, it will be quite noticeable for a lot of the clients that I work with and a lot of the referrals that I read through, that this young person has started showing disinterest in things that they used to find really fascinating or enjoyable, showing withdrawal from even hanging out with certain peers and various things like that, as well as their academic courses. So it's really important to be looking out for these nonverbal, very subtle cues.
Agreed. That was so well put together. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, thank you.
Okay. So now moving on to the support that we have available. Again, Jacqueline, would you want to?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is kind of a fun little graph, if you will, of kind of the referral process. So let's say as an educator or a safeguarding in pastoral support system for a young person, you would have a conversation with them and say, hey, would you feel comfortable and consent to me referring you to Change, Grow, Live, CGL? And so we only take on clients that have consented and want and are ready to seek help. That is a really big pinpoint for our services. We want to meet young people where they want to be met at. And so after that referral has been processed through our services, a resilience worker, such as myself or any of my other wonderful colleagues, would go in and have a one-to-one comprehensive assessment with them. That would just be gaining camaraderie, repertoire with them, engaging with them, and kind of giving them some harm reduction advice, as well as taking into account where they might be getting their substance, how often they're using a substance, and XYZ. And so if they are using only a nicotine product, such as a nicotine disposable vape, then we would tell them and get consent and immediately refer them to Quitwell Newham, because Quitwell Newham has over 12 years of beautiful vaping knowledge and programs that are tailored to individualize the approach for any user who is wanting to ultimately reduce or quit vaping or nicotine usage altogether. However, if they are using any other harmful substances such as THC vapes, cannabis, spice, the whole 9 yards, up to your imagination, whatever harmful substance young people might be using, then we would also keep them within the CGL program and take them on to one of our longer term intervention pathways. So as you can see, there's so much support, free and confidential, within the Newham Borough that would love to engage with the young people that you see on a daily basis and might be worried about.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So the next couple of slides also contain more information regarding referrals. I'm just going to move on. So this is the referral. So the link that you see on the screen, the Well Newham directory. So you should be able to refer young people who do want support to quit Well Newham through this link as well, or you could contact us directly. And if the young person is under 16 years of age and they have the capacity to make their own decisions, then we are happy to see them, without needing a parent consent or knowledge. And I'm happy to see them on Saturdays as well, if that's the only time they're available. And we do, as Jacqueline said, we do provide them with behavioral support as well as nicotine replacement therapy. So the nicotine replacement therapy is very low dose, and that's something to keep in mind, because keeping in mind that they are younger people, we do not want to give them really high dose nicotine. So we do not start with, say, 25 milligram patch or chewing gums. We would probably start with 7 milligram or 14 milligram, depending on their nicotine dependence. So they would be triaged based on their nicotine dependence into what kind of support they would require. So now moving on to the next slide, Jacqueline.
Yeah. So what support is available within Newham to quit vaping with harmful substances? Like we mentioned before, THC is a big one, and you might just hear that word being thrown around the young people that you're naturally interacting with. So Change Grow Live Newham Rise supports young people looking to reduce, stop, and overall just understand the risks and side effects around misusing or frequently using certain substances. So this service is for young people 11 to 25. However, like I mentioned before, we do work with people who are in the hidden harm program, so directly affected by also a parent's or carer's substance use and misuse. So our age demographic varies actually quite largely from 5 to 25 years old. For more information, of course, please visit our website. You'll find the referral program, portal there, as well as just all the other CGLs that are based all over London. We are a part of a London cluster hub. However, we're all over the UK. We're a national countrywide service for you. And obviously, our contact is right there, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. However, part of my role is doing fun workshops. So that's meeting people at youth zones, at schools for interactive, engaging, educational ways to kind of fire up conversations surrounding substances and vaping and whatnot.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So now, moving on to a more important, I wouldn't say all parts of it was important, but I think essential part is how to approach a young person if they are vaping. So this training was something that we also developed in partnership with parents, and these were a few of the things, the modifications that we have made, are a few of the things that they requested on, how to approach their young person. So this is based off the Ask, Advise, Act model for stop smoking, and it is modified based on the VBA model that the NCST has for quitting tobacco. Essentially, it involves 3 A's. So that is ask, advise, and act, as you can see on the slide. The asking would be, when you'd find the right moment. Example, when you'd ask the young person, what their relationship with using a vape is, or when you try to understand why they're asking why they're vaping by asking questions like, what do you enjoy about vaping, or how does vaping make you feel? Or when did you start vaping, or how did you start vaping as well? That's a very good question because it's an open question, and they'd start talking about, how they got into the habit as well. That would also give you an idea of the triggers or when they, when they choose vaping. And you could discuss other ways to meet those needs. Like, for example, if they say that they are vaping as a coping mechanism, then you could probably start a conversation then again about other habits that they could develop to, feel the same way instead of vaping. Um, then the second stage would be the advising, and that's where I would probably not use the word advise, around younger adults. We'd probably it's more of a knowledge transfer. So all the information that we have about vaping, about how it can be harmful, the lack of research, how it affects, the long-term effects, all of that information is, can be passed down to young people, because again, there is this perceived safety with electronic cigarettes that is being marketed, and that's the misinformation that we need to tackle at this point. We can explain, those who knowingly sell vapes to people under 18, they don't really care about them, and they're selling it just to make profit. You make them aware of the support that is available for them to help reduce, quit, or learn how to use vape more safely. So one of the most important things is that this is a no judging space, and it's a free space where, they can discuss even how to use vape, more optimally or more safely. And the third step, or the final step, would be acting on the, all the information that we have gathered and all the information we are transferring to them. So based on their response, this is not something that they would probably not agree for a referral the first time you do this, because this is just a 30-second intervention. It's very brief advice. So this is just for them this is like the seed that we sow, and let them think on it and reflect on this. So based on their response, we can either build confidence, give more information, or we can refer to a relevant organization. That would be CGL or Quit Well Newham. Or for example, even if you're not sure, if they haven't shared with you what substance they're using, or if you feel like they're not being transparent, or they're hesitating to share that with you, then you could probably just refer them to CGL, and CGL would be able to, members at the team would do initial assessment, and they are trained to be able to speak to young people in their language as well. So I feel that is that's very important. So that would be, to refer to CGL or to Quit Well Newham through CGL. So that is essentially how we would be able to, make that initial contact, or, sow that seed. Hopefully that'll flourish. Moving on to the next slide. So this is a very good question. What do we do if your child does not want to quit vaping? Jacqueline, please, you
Yes.
kindly answer that for us.
Absolutely. So if your child is not open to stopping vaping or insists that they won't even become dependent, you can just basically remind them the facts in a very calm way. So it our young people are their own people. So only so much is within our control, even though as adults or safeguarding professionals, we might feel like we know best, but also independence is huge in a young person's journey. So just reminding them of the factual information, they can't argue that, but also making sure that we're delivering this information in a calm, non-judgmental, targeting way. It just makes it a lot more approachable and a lot less agitating to the young person being on the receiving end. Let them know that you care about them and are coming from a place of concern, of course. So talk to them about reducing their vaping, or just talk to them about hypothetical situations of someone else that you're aware of who has struggled with quitting vaping or has struggled with side effects from vaping. And in the meantime, if they aren't ready to completely stop, then, like I said, we have to roll with that and meet them where they want to be met at, but still be a really significant supporter in their life. And set up and maintain rules and boundaries around vaping and let them know what your expectations are. So, a lot of parents that I work closely with who have referred their child will tell me, I totally know my child is using. However, I just set a boundary with them that it's not allowed in the house. It's not allowed in my vision. I'm not allowed to know. And just various things like maybe the boundary is now they have a curfew, or now their allowance has been shifted and changed. It varies on the person, of course, but just some examples. Try to avoid searching their room belongings, as this can obviously create agitation and frustration with the young person, unless there's a huge assumption that they have something very illegal or unsafe for them to have on person. Hopefully, there's never a situation where you have to really rummage through their belongings, because we're trying to establish trust and let them know that they are not their choices. They're wonderful people. However, the choices that they're making are not emphasizing how awesome they are of an individual, if that makes sense. Let them know that when they are ready to quit and want to have an open discussion about quitting, that you are there for them, or if they don't want to talk to you at all, which is a lot of the times the case with carers and parents of young people, that they have CGL and other resources like Quit While Newham to engage and interact with in a confidential space.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Now, moving on to a few more resources. I'm very conscious of the time, so I think we're going to, go through the information briefly and also make sure that you have the slides. So in case you do need to refer back to them or need to reach out to us, you should be able to do so. So this is the card that you see on the slide is essentially the training standards reporting, like a consumer crime reporting tool. Essentially, if you do scan the QR code, you should be able to report to trading standards. If you find any retailer selling tobacco to people under the age of 18, you can do it anonymously as well, or you can just send an email to trading standards. The amazing thing about our trading standard team is that they are conducting various test purchases in and around schools, and there have been quite a few. If I'm not wrong, the Newham Smoke Free Alliance meeting, we did get an update saying that there's quite a few exercises planned in the coming months, and there have unfortunately been a few shops that they have identified where they are selling to underage people, but it's an ongoing operation, and it's amazing that we have this tool in, handy for us to use. And there are also, if you have other concerns as well around young people being at risk of criminal or sexual exploitation, then you can report this to Crime Stoppers anonymously, because we do see that there are quite a few young people who are holding on vapes, and they are selling in schools as well, unfortunately. So then this becomes a criminal exploitation situation, and we do need to report it. Moving on to the guidance toolkit. Jacqueline, would you want to come in here?
Yeah, so the guidance toolkit on youth vaping for schools and frontline staff. So over here, you can see that there are a lot of resources out there that are free, that are accessible to you, which is exciting. So digital copies can be found at that website. And like Amina said before, all these slides, as well as the recording of this session, will be emailed to your guys's emails that you registered with us with.
Thank you. So again, this is, I think, the Healthy School and Smoking and Vaping Silver Toolkit. So it has been designed for schools who are looking to achieve like the Silver Award and view smoking and vaping as a priority area. If your school has already completed the Bronze Award, and if you're interested in the Silver Award, then you should be able to contact Amy Hayfield, and her email ID is here down below. I am aware that I have skipped a few points, but again, you shall have this. You shall have this available. The next slide, I think this is also, there are resources available. This was the same resource that the video that we had in the beginning. There's, you can talk to Frank about knowing the facts about vaping to make an informed choice. So the Talk to Frank website is essentially all resources, again, put together in association. Like Ash put it together in association with Smokefield Sheffield, and they have produced a number of resources such as videos, teachers toolkit, electronic leaflets for parents, and all of that information can be found on the link in the slide. One last thing I did also want to highlight is actually, it's in the next slide, and I think this answers Michelle's question earlier as well about the health conditions. And I feel this is a very important bit of information, so I'm going to move on to the reporting health harms from vaping form. And Jacqueline, did you want to?
Oh, yes, if you'd like me to. So in 2024, the Met Police have informed the Department of Health of 5 young people. So this is a case study between ages 14 to 16 years in Greenwich who were hospitalized to serious health harms because of their vape usage and the vapes that they were using, with toxicology reports confirming that it contained synthetic cannabinoids, in other words, spice. So there has been reports by the Met Police obtaining vapes containing cannabis, who also experienced health harms. At present, Department of Health do not understand the scale of the issue of vapes containing illegal drugs and whether young people involved were planning to buy these illegal drugs. So essentially, in other terms, a lot of young people are getting sold illegal drugs like synthetic cannabinoids without any awareness, so being manipulated, exploited, and essentially without their consent, having drugs enter their body without any awareness until after the fact. So that is something that we are really could not stress enough that is going on, especially within our New region.
Thank you. So again,
just because there's only 2 more minutes, I think we should
yeah.
make sure we save some times for some questions and comments if anyone has any. But essentially right here is a concise flyer leaflet, if you will, of vapes containing spice. So like we said, any vape can contain spice. However, THC vapes are kind of the primary ones we are seeing containing synthetic cannabinoids, as well as other harmful substances.
Yep. And again, this is all the information you should be able to find on the Well Knew Him Youth Vaping webpage. This is there on the Well Knew Him directory, and all the information that we discussed today is here, as well as resources to talk to the Talk to Frank website. And you can also make referrals through this website. Does anyone else also, one other last thing that I wanted to add is that the LDS, the health harm reporting form, it can be filled and it can be sent in to Newham, if you do come across any young person who does have have an effect because of vaping. I think, and with that, I think our training does come to an end. I'm aware we're on time exactly, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them now or pop them in the